The vast scope you have given for my talk. But let me begin with COP27 because I have been reviewing it on everyday basis. Uh, what I have observed, of course, COP27 is a platform for politics where developed countries are playing whatever game they want to play. So they're looking at the media and then the kind of participation. I thought I'll share a few thoughts there. And in fact, no, just November first week, I was part of this Science Journalist Forum. This is a multi-continental forum, and I was invited as a guest. Even last year, I was there. I spoke there. So this the Science Journalist Forum is also discussing this communication problems, especially in the context of COVID-19. One thing which we have been repeatedly seeing is either in COP, this climate change COP 27 or 26, there is a science which is there, and this science which is impacting on the social and then the political. So, linking this science, social, and political and economic, I think that's becoming very problematic for the media. So, I've found journalists are not able to understand those linkages quite clearly. That's one thing. Second, I see in because when you're talking of climate change, if you remember the debate we had in Telangana when in July there was a lot of rains and Godavari was flooded and Kaleshwaram, pump house got flooded and Chief Minister said this could be cloudburst and he hinted at a theory of conspiracy against Telangana by someone, and he just dropped the names of China, something else, and suddenly you can start seeing journalists picking up cloudburst as a word, describing heavy rains as cloudburst. So we organize a press conference and we gave expert news and also definitions of what it is. But of course, everyone was not there. But this continued, and of course, for political leaders, it was easy to explain away their complicity or their negligence in responding. So cloudburst continues to be used by officers and politicians, and then unfortunately by a few sections of the media. And that's where I'm saying the science. I would be happy if they looked at the entire climate change and what it means. The climate change is a word which now is a two-word concept which impacts across. So it's no longer the weather or it's no longer the rains. In fact, I've been working with pesticides. We are looking at where we try to link it with the insect apocalypse, where insects are vanishing, species are lost, and then the viruses, the bacterium, not only in the external atmosphere but also in the gut microbiome within the body. So there is a range of science which fortunately in the case of climate change we have a authentic scientific body which is reporting. That's the International Panel on Climate Change. So for the past 20 years, they have been releasing reports regularly. And this is a accepted scientific body. Of course, when you mentioned in the beginning, there are people who denied climate change, but of course, they started accepting when they are seeing back-to-back climate disasters in the last 2 years. So, when we see the reports being written, there's no reference to this IPCC report. Leave alone talking to me or anyone else and then writing something. So this body of knowledge which has been built over studies, over reviews, I think that should have been the basis for reporting on climate change and why what is happening in Telangana at that time, even now. That's one part. So I feel people they either they don't do look at it as as a standalone sector like looking at science and then reporting is fine, but also the interlinkages of how this climate change is impacting on the social, and then the social how it is being transformed into a political conflict or a political game. I think so. These linkages are, of course, not traced at all because recently, not all recent, just yesterday and day before, this week we have seen Hyderabad a lot of air pollution. Suddenly, after the rain stopped and post Diwali, this is a phenomenon which starts happening where particulate matter 2.5 and particulate matter 10 increases. Then there were reports, and Delhi they declared holidays for the school. So, some people, media channel, they asked me my opinion. I gave. No, my point is, everyone again reported on Delhi, but not at. They are not gone beyond that. Annual air quality index. And I told them, yeah, why can't you look at the impacts, health impacts because of this air quality? Now, so I don't know if it is a lack of time or lack of application. I would have expected 10 more, stories just based on the air quality index which has deteriorated. And now in this background, this week we are having a climate change conference in Egypt, and I have not seen any newspaper linking the Hyderabad phenomena in the last 6 months, extreme rain, and then the sudden increase in the air pollution to the climate change conference and see what is that being discussed there. So last 4 days I've been looking at all the newspapers except small here and there. And today, Andhra Prabha, someone wrote a big article about Vifalamaina Churchalu. But overall, I feel, the management, as you say, they are not bothered. But the journalists are also, I don't think they are able to link and understand the linkages and report it as well. Because when you are saying that a poor woman of a tenant, a farmer, if she is not able to make two ends meet, it's not only the inflation. What is the how this inflation has come about in the world? Worldwide, there is inflation, and this inflation is linked with the environmental destruction, not only across the globe, but also in her circumstances. I've seen in Maharashtra farmers, cotton farmers, eating 5 rupees biscuit packet in the morning and going to work. And we have seen agriculture labor who don't even eat in the morning, they skip 1 or 2 meals and then they go to work. So these are all, manifestations out of a linkage between environmental destruction, social impacts, and then the political negligence. So these kind of links, I don't know how we can keep bringing before the media. And another example I'll give you, this buses, transport in Hyderabad. The number of buses decreasing, and on the other hand, students are but is this not a competition when they say metro rail is very benign and green kind of solution, and buses, there's no position at all in terms of environment, but then there is a negligence towards what is mass transport and building more flyovers. So today the GHMC has approved 6,224 crores of budget, but there's no mention of transport. Even though transport, buildings, and industries, these are the three big sources of air pollution in Hyderabad. But not even, I don't think even in their own conception, they understand this linkage in GHMC. So GHMC does not even bother about transport as a sector which is under its administration. So leave alone, what the politicians and media. So my problem is why media is not able to link it, even though there are 10, 15, or 20 people like me who are trying to show that linkage. So same with the e-racing, where they have cut down at least 200 trees on the median before the secretariat. So why these linkages are not happening? We think it is just because the management, of course, is part of this ruling clique, which benefits from that environmental destruction. But I think somewhere we also need to see what kind of training journalists are getting, and whether they are able to, do a 360-degree review of their stories. Maybe they don't have time, or someone is not giving time for them to write a story, because every day you have to file a story. So you don't have so much time as to do research and come with authentic stories. So those are factors are there. I think those professional hazards which are there. So coming back to the main question, climate conference is happening, and it's not a phenomenon only in India and Telangana or Hyderabad. This across the world. If you look at the New York Times, the way they are reporting, I think they are reporting from the standpoint of the U.S. administration interests. So mostly, you see the news where market-based solutions are pushed through this kind of media. So today, when the climate change conference has forcibly brought loss and damage to African nations or small island nations as part of the agenda, that was done by a rare unity among the African nations. They could bring that, but otherwise, I think this media, international media, would have hijacked the agenda in a completely different mode. So there, I would like to point out the role being played by one or two, like Guardian is there, and then there are a lot of websites, who try to give information, and there are individual journalists, who are, I don't know at what cost they are covering this news in the both in Glasgow last year and now this year in Sharm el Sheikh. Individual, they are trying to do the more than what their professional limitations have given them. So I think uh, media has become one is a part of a tool within this game of a power game. I think that's becoming clear and obviously it is being used and very tightly. We have seen that in the case of Facebook. We have seen that in the case of Twitter. And but of course, because the same social media now, as you rightly pointed out, individuals, they started their own, web channels and try to bring out authentic information. With regard to climate change again, I think the Guardian is working without any support, and they are based on individual contributions. So 80% of their contributions are on individual, and it is dedicated to this news and then exploring the social, political, and scientific dimensions of the problem. So I feel most of these media houses should start learning from the Guardian and see how they can bring. Even they have a protocol also on how to report, this science and social related issues. So I don't know if in India our media houses have such a protocol for young journalists so that they can learn and frame their work within a socially responsible reporting. So if it is not there, I think we should recommend such a protocol because increasingly science, even we, as civil society, I am not trained as a scientist, but as we started working on the social issues, I started learning about it. Like when pesticide poisoning happened in Maharashtra, I started reading some medical books and then started interacting with the doctors. And we have gone to the extent of organizing a continuous medical education for doctors. So one of the visiting doctors commented to me, "You are without being a doctor, you are chastising the doctors." I said, basis on knowledge. It's not any because I have any అహంకారం ఉండదు కాదు. So we learn, we have to learn every section of the society which is working for the people. I think they have to learn now science, or at least understand those concepts and try to link with the impacts. Otherwise, I think there will be a huge disservice. What we have seen in the case of COVID-19. COVID-19, we have seen how the debate on vaccines was, completely, in a direction which only scared people, and even doctors accepted vaccine without any questions. But that was not the case, before COVID, and we were able to, debate on vaccines, their efficacy, and other things. But during this time, we could not because everyone was so scared and they were completely jammed about science and science behind vaccines. So I'm saying increasingly we are seeing the problem of science coming. Of course, science is being manipulated, like we are seeing in genetically modified crops discussion. Like in any other sector, fake news, half news, or completely, false news. That is coming up, and science is not even insulated from that. Scientists are also not insulated. So, all the more because of that, I think journalists should start, understanding all this so that they can report based on their professional, values and limitations. So I'll stop here. Maybe we can have another discussion. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Narasimha Garu. That was a fascinating perspective of journalism from across the world as well as India, and especially what happens in Telangana. Now, I'd like to invite Vivek Garu to speak on a few things which Narasimha Garu just raised here about training, for instance. We both know that journalism training doesn't happen on ground as much as it happens in, I guess, universities and institutes. So,
Sorry, before someone was raising a hand. You want to take
oh,
now or
yeah,
later? I don't know if it's up
it
to
would
you.
be it would be a nice idea to perhaps take all the questions once, Nikita Garu. What would you say?
It's up to you. I think
Yeah,
we.
we'll do all the questions together. That would be also give Vivek Garu a kind of a time to sort of come back to us on what he believes. How do journalists deal with this? Two, three things I think Narasimha Reddy Garu raised, which are very, very critical. One is scientific training, very critical. We both know, I have been a journalist. We both know there is no specific training which is given to journalists. Although, of course, based on our interest and the needs of the story, we do train ourselves. Sometimes that training can go on for months before we actually report on a particular incident. That happens. The second thing which he talked about was the pressures. Now, as he was giving the example of international media, putting pressure on a particular side of an argument or taking side in an argument, and therefore also representing certain interests in a very critical issue like climate change, in a very critical time like now when the talks are happening. What do you think about that? And the third thing, which of course, which is a larger question, which we all have to really ponder about, is the crowdfunding issue, the independent funding of journalism. And how far can that go? Is that a match to the industrial complex that the mainstream media has become? So these are the three questions. Perhaps we begin with the scientific temper and scientific training of journalists. Do you think it's a challenge, Vivek Garu?
We need to have more discussion on air pollution or even industrial pollution. Mr. Vivek is talking about. So my point is, whatever is being done, some awareness activity or a workshop, usually that should be picked up by the media. That's how it can go to a wider audience. The problem is when you look at the whichever workshop is being reported, they skip all the essential points, and then this guy spoke, that guy spoke, and ultimately it is reduced to a mere reporting. I don't know if it is done at the desk or at the level of the reporter, but I don't see the depth coming out of it. So, I'm saying, there are a lot of reports, even with the National Investment Manufacturing Zone is talking about in Jahirabad, and even in Patancheru, of course, a lot of literature is there for the past 30, 35 years, and pharma pollution is there. So, it's not any particular individual. I'm saying generally. Now, air pollution, there are at least four reports which have come recently in India on air pollution in the cities. So again, the report is not completely, all the information which is given by the report is not taken, and mere one or two sentences are taken, and then they forget about that report, that story afterwards. I'm saying, like, this Mungod election, every day it covered at least the first top page and second page, and of course internally again it was covered almost 30, 40, 60% depending on the news media. Why can't they do the same with a public issue? So it's not about no. There is a literature, of course. Some areas there are only a few people who can give information, like genetically modified crops. I don't think anyone is going to. give information about, or even seismology. Yesterday, day before, there was a earthquake in Nepal and Delhi. So some journalists wanted me to connect with the seismologists. We don't have many of them, but in certain areas there are already reports are there. But the problem is they don't continue to report on that. You can't convert a report into a news story in only once. There will be several dimensions which are reported on that report. So COP, in fact, climate change conference offers you every day at least 10 different, 15 different kind of perspectives. And that is not reflected. Like, one guy, one student from Hyderabad Public School, he had a chance to participate in the climate change conference of youth. It is a COI, which happens every 3 days before a COP. So this person was there. I think I remember last year also someone went from Hyderabad. So we get that report that this student has gone, and everyone feels pride. Okay, our guy is there. I said, okay, what about later? What has that person learned, and what did he come back with, or what did he contribute about the situation here in that conference? Of course, this is a student. We can't expect much from him. He might have learned more. But what about Indian delegation in COP? Last year, I have given the analysis of COP delegation, Indian delegation. It is 105 strong, and among them 30 are clerics, 10 are photographers, only 2 or 5 of them are experts. So what is this Indian delegation doing there? Are they contributing, or are they bringing back anything? And okay, whatever delegation has gone, what did they bring back, and where was it discussed in India? There was this Glasgow Sharm el Sheikh work program which was agreed upon so the next 10 years, and then India has also given committed itself to a 2070 program. Where is the discussion in the media on this? Because this has implications. When you want to reduce thermal power plants, it has implications on access to electricity. It has implications on the economy itself, on industrial production, cost of industrial production, competition, export, import trade. All these issues there are implications. But I would have expected with these big media houses, they have 100, 200 journalists all over, and now a lot of them are, engineering graduates, so they can understand many of the nuances which are being discussed there. So my problem is why it is not happening even today when the disaster is in before our face. Even media is going to face that disaster. They are also part of the population. Tomorrow, if we drown, all of us will drown. So why media does not think that this is a life and death situation, and why media does not think that poor people are dying because of this more than anyone else. So why we can't make that connection? So that is still a puzzle. We can explain. Okay, the management does not give. We have all those analysis. But what about social media? Even social media now in Telangana, I think there are at least 50, 60 sites. None of them have picked up this story. And syndicated feed. I think that there was this question from someone now. He said, why they are not covering news live? Yesterday, I saw a channel covering air show in China, live, or I think it came, they bought a syndicated feed, and then some some dog, something about a dog in some other country. So, but then what about this? I think PTA is covering many others. Simply pick up those, even if you don't want to spend money, pick up those, syndicated feed and then interpret and then do a story. So none of the video channels are picking up. And when they pick it up, and again, it is couched in a way as if to scare rather than to inform people. So that's another problem that goes to the other extreme. So my problem even now is leave alone those livelihood issues which we are seeing, which are not reported. Easily say there is pollution, and we were countered that where is the pollution. So we had to, think of how to do that. But ultimately, people, when the people started saying there is pollution, that became authentic.
Okay.
So it's not we saying that. So that local and being part of the problem, I think that's the most authentic source. So even if you, if you take the example of food poisoning, okay, you might not have data of how many schools food poisoning is there, but the very fact that one girl or one person said, okay, I have food poisoning and this is the third time or fifth time I'm having, that itself is enough because that's how journalists can write.
Yes.
That's an advantage,
Yes.
Unlike a research report where you can't write just on the basis of it and say food poisoning is very wide. So a journalist has that advantage. But the thing is, you need to locate that authentic source and write.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can't write from my mouth about a food poisoning, which is
Yes.
without data. So I think that's where there is a lot of difference.
I agree. I think that's the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. When we are looking at data, it's not us. It's just that scientific research accepts data more because it is supposed to be objective, and narratives can be subjective. But journalists can cover that bridge. They can have both the data as well as the narrative. That's how we see some of the best stories in the world being written. There is also data. There's also narratives. Of course, we don't see that happening in India. But we have a question here: why COP27 is not decentralized and in their programs and their activities? Perhaps Narasimha Garu, you can answer that.
No, that is anyway not generic to this discussion, but
Yeah.
COP, basically it's an international conference, and there are a number of platforms within that international conference where participation of civil society and government delegation is encouraged. And now it is the responsibility of the national government to create discussion platforms within their country. And if they are not doing that, and then it's their problem, but not the UNFCCC, which is organizing COP. They have to ensure that more delegates can come, and then so they have this structure of government delegates negotiating, and I think there's no bar on what's the size of the delegates. And then they have created this space for civil society through observers. So a civil society can participate in the discussion, but they don't have any decision-making power. But they can observe, monitor, and even input into the discussions as a observer. So that process is there. And then third kind of participation is where media is there. And media, of course, they have access to all the discussion and they can report. So that way, the larger public can also participate. So, but that is where the now the entire problem is. That kind of media is not there. In COP 27, they are saying some 300, 400 journalists are there, and it includes some Indian media, but I have not seen that getting reflected here. So that's where I'm saying, like PTA, UNI, all these people are there. Maybe they are sending syndicated feed, but this no, there's no one publishing here. So that way, the participation of the Indian people is denied because they would have started thinking about it. So that's the role of media. They can enable or facilitate public participation in important decisions, but that kind of role is not being played, and that's a lament. That's our lament
Yeah.
now.
So I think I see no more questions, and if there are also, we are running out of time. So last few words, 30 seconds, 1 minute. Vivek ji, I'll go to you first. What would you say is I mean, Narasimha Garu has been very clear on what should be expected from the media and what media has been delivering. It's also very clear what is playing out on the world stage on the COP27. What would you say, on issues which you have covered, like data, training, linking of these issues with climate change? What's your way forward?
Uh, we cannot expect the governments to create awareness or create a platform where there will be a linkages. They won't do that for obvious reasons. So people, activists, civil society organizations, and those in the academia who have retired, they should come together at some point of time. And yes, I agree with Narasimha Reddy sir that we are not doing enough, at least in this during this COP 27 events. We can actually connect them with the localized issues, but we are not doing that. Uh, but this has to be done every day throughout the year. That's
Yes,
what I feel. Every day the climate change, it's not happening only during the period, right? Every single day, every second.
absolutely.
We should do it
Absolutely.
all the time, and that's what I
Thank
feel.
you. Thank you. And you, Narasimha Garu, what are your wrapping up comments?
I'm only saying, I think we need to have more awareness sessions with the media, and we need to increase their awareness on the climate change issues. And the covering COP is not about covering climate change events. This is more about the decisions which are taken with regard to what to do or how to avoid the impact of climate change, or how to compensate, or how to prevent disasters. I think this is what is happening. But rightly, I think we need to link up the local disasters with the national, international, and then seek justice, seek equity, and seek solutions for that problem. So there, I feel the media has a role, and both ways. The one is bringing those discussions to the local, or projecting the local to the global. I think this
Yes, absolutely.
two-way role is there on the media, and I hope we'll see more response from the media as individuals, and as also as a system, as a pillar of the Indian Constitution.
Thank you very much. That's well said, connecting the local to the global. Uh, I shall wrap up the session here with my profound thanks to both the panelists who have shared their experience from the ground, precious insights into climate change, as well as how the media looks at it. From my point, as I said at the very beginning of this session, I think we need a little bit of a media revolution where journalists are supported by citizens outside the media so that they can report the way they see the truth. Thank you very much for joining all the panelists, also all the audience who have been with us for this almost 2 hour long session. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you to you too. Thank you.